They've been back for a while now, haven't they? Fugue and Lingsha. And honestly, what better time to talk about them than right now? Is this banner bait? Is it not bait? And what does bait even mean anymore? After the Dahlia and Firefly banners right before this in Phase 1 of 3.8, it almost feels like Hoyo just decided to throw the rest of the Superbreak team into a rerun banner and call it a day. And honestly, that's probably exactly what they were thinking. So the real question is this banner bait, or is it actually a legitimate pull? To start things off, let's remember one important thing. Both Fugue and Lingsha are Superbreak units. Fugue acts as the buffer, while Lingsha is the sustain. Both are good in their own roles, especially within Superbreak teams. Back in version 2.x, Superbreak teams were absolutely insane. They could literally break every enemy with ease. That's much rarer in version 3.x. But Superbreak did get a bit of a revival with the release of Dahlia, who honestly carried that comeback almost single-handedly. I already talked about that in my Dahlia video. Now, with Fugue and Lingsha back on banner, before going any deeper into the meta discussion, I think it's only fair that we quickly review each character's kit first, starting with Lingsha. Let's start with Lingsha. She is, very clearly, the sustain unit for Superbreak teams. When she first released, she was basically designed to replace Gallagher's role in Superbreak teams. And not just any Gallagher, but E6 Gallagher. Which, yeah, those are some huge shoes to fill. Gameplay-wise, Lingsha is very straightforward. You use her skill to heal allies while also dealing damage. After that, she summons Fu Yuan, a follow-up unit with 90 speed. Using Lingsha's skill advances Fu Yuan's action forward, and when Fu Yuan actually takes its turn, it launches a follow-up attack that damages all enemies, heals allies, and dispel debuffs. Her ultimate basically fast-forwards this entire process, healing allies, dealing damage, and advancing Fu Yuan's action by 100%. Very simple, very clean gameplay. Her entire purpose is to help your Superbreak DPS, your Firefly, break enemies faster, deal more damage, and stay alive. With hyperspeed tuning, this is about as good as sustain gets for Superbreak teams. And yes, she is best in slot for that specific archetype. I won't go deep into Eidolons here. Personally, I think Lingsha is perfectly fine at E0. If you want to turn her into a DPS, then E1 and her signature light cone are basically mandatory. But honestly, why would we even do that? Overall, no surprises here. Lingsha is a solid sustain unit for Superbreak teams. Now let's talk about Fugue. When Fugue was first announced back in 2.7, everyone, and I mean everyone, expected her to be an alternative to Harmony MC. Ironically, she ended up being played in a sustainless Superbreak team with Firefly, Ruan Mei, and Harmony MC anyway. At least until Dahlia came out. Fugue is a very unique unit. Her skill targets one ally, allowing that ally to reduce enemy toughness regardless of weakness type. So if your Superbreak DPS doesn't have a weakness implant like Firefly, no problem, Fugue has you covered. That said, the toughness reduction is only half of the normal value, so there is a trade-off. Her talent is also very strong. It adds an additional toughness bar called Cloudflame Luster, effectively allowing enemies to be broken twice, which means more Superbreak damage. Her ultimate deals AoE damage and reduces all enemies' toughness regardless of type, which is exactly what Superbreak teams need, breaking enemies as fast as possible. Now, here's her biggest downside. Fugue is a Nihility unit, not Harmony, which means she can't use Dance Dance Dance. And for a support unit, especially one that was expected to replace Harmony MC, that's a huge drawback. There is a fix for this though, E2 Fugue. At E2, every time she uses her ultimate, she advances all allies' actions by the same amount as S5 DDD. Her E1 is also very strong, increasing one ally's break efficiency by 50%. When combined with Ruan Mei and Dahlia, that can reach up to 150%, which is extremely good. Most players can stop at E1 if they're running Fugue in a sustainless Superbreak team with Firefly, Ruan Mei, and Dahlia. Since Ruan Mei can carry S5 DDD, Fugue doesn't need E2 in that setup. Overall, Fugue is a solid unit, but she requires high investment. E2 is what makes her truly comfortable to play. She's kind of like Cyrene in that sense. So now that we've covered both Fugue and Lingsha, let's talk about the bigger picture. In version 3.8, clearing content easily with Superbreak teams takes a lot of effort and investment. Even with my own setup, E2 Firefly, E0 Dahlia, E0 Fugue, and E0 Ruan Mei, I still can't consistently zero cycle the current MOC. Sure, part of that is because I don't have S5 DDD, but even with that level of investment, struggling to zero cycle is honestly kind of heartbreaking. Yes, I know some people will say you can zero cycle with perfect fine-tuning. And that's true. I just don't care enough to fine-tune that hard. And honestly, this makes sense. Superbreak is an old meta, almost 2 years old at this point. It's simply showing its age. Fugue and Lingsha aren't bad units. They're good. But with the current meta, you need hyper investment, especially into Fugue. And if you don't already have that investment, then yes, in my opinion, this banner is bait. The only scenario where this is kind of worth it is if you're already halfway invested into Superbreak. For example, E2 Firefly plus E0 Fugue. And even then, the only thing worth pulling is E2 Fugue. Lingsha still isn't worth it in that scenario, because top-level Superbreak teams are played sustainless. So yeah, sorry Lingsha, you still get the short end of the stick. After all this Superbreak talk, the safest investment right now is clearly Elation teams. I'm very confident that once a full Elation team is released, it will completely outscale Superbreak. Even now, Superbreak, with Dahlia's help, is barely keeping up with hyper-invested Phanon or Castorise teams, so imagine what happens when Elation gets fully fleshed out. Looking at Hoyo's meta history, Jingliu and Dan Heng, replaced by Acheron and Firefly, replaced again by Phanon and Castorise. The pattern is obvious. It's just smarter to save your Jades for upcoming Elation units. Once Elation is fully online, both the player base and enemy design will shift toward it, and Superbreak will fall even further behind. Lingsha and Fugue are not bad characters. Their kits are well designed, and they perform well in the meta they were created for. But Superbreak is old, requires massive investment, and sits right next to an incoming meta shift. Because of that, it's just not worth it. If you're already heavily invested in Superbreak, then sure, go all the way for E2 Fugue. If you're not, skip it and focus on Elation. So yeah, based on Hoyo's usual patterns, this banner is bait. Especially if you're starting fresh. If you're a waifu puller, a whale, or someone who rolls whatever they want, then hey, go for it. But for low spenders and free-to-play players, it's far more efficient to save and aim for an E to Elation DPS in version 4.x. And that's how I avoid complaining about power creep every patch. That's all for today's video. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about Fugue and Lingsha? Are you pulling on this rerun? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Hoshi's out.